all of the committee members are here. May I get a approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All right, can I get an approval of the open session minutes?
So moved.
All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Right, thank you. Attorney Morris, it's in your hands.
I'm sorry, it was hard to hear. The motion was by for the approval of the agenda. I had Ms. Heintel as one.
Yes,
Tucker.
I didn't hear who did the other motion.
me.
Okay,
Okay. So I've got Ms. Green and Ms. Heintel.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. The first thing we have on the agenda is policies for second review. The first policy for second review is policy 4-03C, prohibition of gangs and gang activities. This policy was reviewed by the committee in January and by the board in February. There's been no stakeholder input since that time, and staff would request that this policy go for approval at the March meeting. And just as a reminder, this policy was reviewed as part of the regular review of the policy manual, and the revisions are being recommended for clarification and to conform with some requirements. Do you want me to do all of them and then we can make a motion? Okay. There's no questions. I will move on to 4-11, student wellness. This policy was also reviewed by the committee in January and the board in February. There's been no stakeholder input in that time, since that time. And so staff would request that this go to the board for approval at the March meeting. And the revisions for this policy are to conform with changes in State Board of Education policy. And if you recall, this policy, the SHAC, the Student Health Advisory Committee, has to review them before it goes to the Board Policy Committee, and they did that back in December or November, I believe. Seeing no questions, the last one is 4-22, Student Health Services. This one was also reviewed by the SHAC, and it was reviewed by this committee in January, the board in February. There's been no stakeholder input, and we would request that this go to the board for approval in March. And this is also to conform with State Board of Education policy, the changes being recommended.
Okay. I move that we send policy 5-3C, policy 5-411, and policy 4-22 to go to the second review for the board.
So moved.
All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. All right, thank you. Policies for first review.
Okay, we have 5 policies. It's actually 4 policies and 1 administrative guideline for first review. Policy 3-02B, certified employees, contracts, dismissal, non-renewal, and resignation. And just so you know, I've taken this time between legislative sessions to catch up on policies just in the normal review. We go through the policy manual annually and see if there's been any changes that we need to make up for. And that's what we're doing right now. So this was reviewed as part of that regular review. The changes are being recommended by staff, and staff would request that this go for first review at the March meeting. I don't know if anybody has any questions on these changes.
No.
Okay. The next one for first review is policy 3-02D, which is the certified or the classified employees suspension and dismissal. This one also is part of the regular review, and the changes are being recommended by staff. And staff would request that this go for first review at the March meeting.
No question.
Seeing no questions, the next one is policy 3-10, grievance procedure for employees. This also was reviewed as part of the regular review of the manual, and the changes are being recommended by staff. And staff would request that this go for review at the March meeting. One of the major changes in here is that we had in our grievance policy that we would bring the grieving parties together to meet. And that never seemed to be an effective resolution and tended to make things worse. And so staff recommended that we have the meeting between kind of individually between HR and the individual parties to try and more of a mediation as opposed to a face-to-face. And so that's the changes that are being recommended. Okay, seeing no questions, policy 6-03, visitors to schools. Again, part of the regular review, and the changes are being recommended by staff for clarification purposes. And some organizational structural purposes, and staff would ask that this go for first review at the March meeting. Okay, final one.
Ooh.
Policy 6-03, these are the administrative guidelines that go with the last policy, and this is on restricting individuals from board policy. As you can see, given the changes that we've made, that this has not been brought to you for a very long time. Because it still had the director of safety, which is prior to Mr. McGraw becoming assistant superintendent. So we are making those changes to address the change in position as well as to comply with what our practices have been. We don't have this happen very often, so it was not one that we were working with often. So staff asked that this go to the board at the March meeting. That is all I have, sir.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to take these to the March meeting?
Move.
Second.
All in favor by the sign of aye?
Aye.
All right. The next meeting will be March 18th, 2025. Well, we'll figure that out, I guess. Okay. And so, but can I get an adjournment, a motion to adjourn, excuse me.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
All right, all in favor by the sign of aye?
Aye.
Ah.
Have a great day, you all.